Thank you for the presentation. And we understand the advocacy that you just put up there. From what you presented, I see it as a reform of ARCN. But I would want a situation where we look at ARCN. How do we position ARCN to speak to APP, communicate APP to development partners, to NARS, to all stakeholders, to be able to come up to have that spirit of alignment. That's what I expect to see. That capacity.
Yeah.
Passing of bill is a reform that is beyond this setting.
Yeah.
But please, I will want a situation where APP can be translated to different stakeholders on what they have at stake in realization of the and in alignment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So again, I think this. Let's just make sure we are understanding Phoebe's point is that we cannot mix the overall reform required for an institution with a process that does not have that mandate, because it might actually slow you down instead of enhancing you that process. So we have to be careful how you present this, lest it be considered that you used this as a backdoor for an agenda that should not actually come through here. So we have to be careful. And I think the point about a focus on alignment to APP is an important point that we need to. Yes, FMAD is here, so let's hear FMAD's point.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm not calling you FMAD. I'm just saying that.
No problem. Once more, thank you for the opportunity. Honestly, we must have a lot of gratitude to IITA for coming up with this forum. I think it should have been the responsibility of ASEAN to do, not IITA coming. In fact, it should be a situation whereby ASEAN will say, look, IITA, look, all CRG in organization, what you are doing in Nigeria does not agree with our own terms of reference. So, but we thank God that this is coming up. So, to ensure that this continues, I think the responsibility of ASEAN is to take it up, that in future we should hold them responsible to find out whether this thing is working or not. I think that is a task that we must do. And then secondly, on the issue of alignment with other sectors, we have Federal Ministry of Science and Technology. You know, historically, ASEAN, first of all, came from science and tech. So, and because of that, I don't think we have any representation here. And when ASEAN came to Federal Ministry of Agriculture, they were known as Department of Agri-Science, which eventually metamorphosed into the ARCN. So, but now, if I'm not mistaken, I understand now that Federal Ministry of Science and Technology also has created another development, Department of Agri-Science. So we have to find a way of linking up with them so that we don't duplicate issues.
All right.
So,
okay. So that's another alignment question, actually.
Yes. So that is
okay. Okay, so I mean, ARC.
And sorry. And so, also, you should also responsibility ensure that all researches are demand driven, so that we don't have issue of abstract, researches.
Yeah.
So we do not have. Okay.
Well, I just want to say that the functions of ARCN, that one of the things is what she has said, that we should focus on the APP advocacy and coordination to make sure that all institutions actually have the APP in print, summary of it, and advocating that all research should align to it. The other thing I saw in their presentation was, I know somebody made mention of something here yesterday that research should seek clearance or something from ARCN before being conducted. And I feel if we do that advocacy, it might be rather a problem to us as a nation. For instance, you write a proposal and you got a funding, and then you've got this funding to do a research, and then you have to go to ARCN to seek clearance to do that research. And if ARCN does not give you the clearance, what happens? So I think that may go too far. Yes, the medical science, like it was mentioned yesterday, that's to me okay because it's been their practice. But if we do that, we may just be creating a bottleneck that is unnecessary. Thank you.
Yeah, And I think, let me just speak to that a bit. I think, given the discussion we have had since yesterday, the indicator approach might be the way to do it. That you are not just going to apply for money because you love to do it, but because it actually is consistent with an indicator at the process of development of which ARCN would have been involved, as opposed to each case they have to sign off, because that might be very heavy as well. So I think I'm getting your point, and think we need to just. Who was number 4? Are you sure? Okay.
Thank you, sir. I want to speak on funding, grants.
Funding.
Funding.
Okay.
What he mentioned about funding with respect to depending on budget. This budget becomes a barrier to research. Is real. Apart from that, yesterday we mentioned. Yesterday we mentioned that the TSCA system is also a barrier to donors. You cannot see how the applicant is prepared to take care of that. I think there should be an institutional framework to be intentional about how to get money for research. You mentioned that in the bill, there will be an aggregate research trust fund. That is one. When the money starts coming, the politician will take over of it. So many people have trust funds that it's not open. I want to suggest. I think somebody told me from IITA, the IITA experience, that they have what they call project management office. Don't know what it is now. I think all the researchers should have a unit that will be intentional. Building capacity for action fund inside the budget. I think that should come up in your.
Thank you. So I mean, I hope you are noting that the big point was your role in resourcing or supporting, getting resources to support research, and maybe partnering with other players to deal with the TA challenge. Because it might not be just you doing it as ARCN, but you need other partners.
Thank you very much. Well, I think the presentation of the ARCN is comprehensive. But on the issue of funding, which is very vital, because all research institutes complain of funds in order to be able to carry out its research work. They talked about TED fund, funding publication. But they didn't talk about who funds research. I know that there is in the bill, we are advocating for a body, either within or outside ARC, that will attract funds from the industry, any agricultural related industry. Now, you didn't talk about that. If you are going to give the responsibility of publication to TED fund, then what will be the responsibility of that other body? Okay, all right. So funding, I think don't defend, just internalize it and use it to articulate it there. So they're saying this whole issue of funding seems to be coming through, that it is a role that you need to think carefully how you can play. The last one was over there.
I've been listening to the ARCN. All the content mentioned, the communities of ARCN, functions of ARCN, they are all embedded in the act that established ARCN. We have problems in ARCN, and the problem is the setup. There is a fundamental problem in the setup of ARCN. And that is what this reform is addressing. Without this bill being passed by National Assembly, we go nowhere. That is the truth.
Okay. All right.
Now, for us to move forward in the reform of ARCN, I would like this group to help us map out a strategy on how this bill can come out from the National Assembly before we can move forward in this time. Now, let me also mention one important issue. We are talking of the alignment of institutions, other donors, whatever project by ARCN. Even we in the research institute under ARCN
Can we have one meeting, please?
are not properly aligned.
Yeah.
We are not properly aligned. That's the research institute under ARCN.
Yeah.
Why? Because the manpower to drive it by ARCN is not there.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that is what reform
Okay. So capacity of ARCN itself.
itself.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a big challenge.
Okay. Thank you.
And I want it to be addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think this issue of the role of this forum, the role of this meeting in ensuring that the reform proceeds is a challenge. It's a challenge because it's a mandate challenge. However, the question is, can we make a suggestion, because FMAD is in the room, as at ministerial level, to drive that without us being seen to be the ones that are actually trying to make. I need some advice from a source before I come back to you. Kwesi, can you say something?
Yeah, thank you. I think we are saying some very important things. Even though I keep saying let's focus on alignment, if the capacity issue and the structural issue is not in place, the alignment also becomes a challenge. So I can understand it's not a definite red line. There will be some elements. And I think a good example is what we're talking about with regard to ARCN. I think in terms of what we do, we will first of all forget that this bail issue is even there. We want to specify the roles that we expect ARCN to play in the context of this alignment issue we are discussing. When we finish, at the end of it, we can then say, our understanding is that all these things we are asking are actually reflected in something called a bill, which is still in the process. And we really want to appeal for this bill process to be accelerated, okay, so that we can move in that regard. And I would like to make, since IITA is one of the organizations that sort of generated the discussion into this consultative group, and since ARCN sits on the board of the CGIAR, I'm not talking about, but the global CGIAR process, ARCN sits on the board. Only about 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, we actually sent the endorsement for the new representative, representing not just Nigeria, but Africa, is from ARCN. And I was part of the team orchestrating that, and now it is signed and endorsed. And that person, Dr. Yarama, has been invited to a meeting in May. Okay? We in IITA would commit ourselves to work with FMAT in following through the recommendations of this, and that will include seeing whatever we can do to energize this process in our own little way. Yeah, because I think it's a very important point, and we can also add something to make it come to pass.
Thank you. So I mean, the point is we cannot resolve everything in this discussion. Let me just say that we can. We needed to get the points which help us to articulate that report in a way that can take us to the next step. And I think I appreciate Kwesi's attempt to explain that in fact we can have a role to play, but it should not be mainstream as something that was the subject of the discussion, but something we note might prevent the outcomes of this discussion from going forward, and then IITA can follow it line. I think I'm more comfortable with that than trying to open that discussion here. So I will request the 7 hands that are up to go down. That's my request. So George, yours is also up, and I would like it to go down on a special request. Are you going to die if you don't say this? Because I want to close the discussion on this ARCN.
I just want to learn way with what others have said. Because ARCN has to be proactive. And we should ensure that a professional is that.
We have agreed with that. We have agreed with that completely.
Yes.
We have agreed
Then,
with that. Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
the sources of research being adopted depends on effective and efficient extensions.
Yes.
There is need for ARCN to link up with extension
Okay. All right.
all the time
Okay.
and to make sure the institutes within ARCN
Yeah.
are doing their mandate, not adopted mandate.
Thank you.
Because there are specialized institutes within the research institute that are supposed to be carrying this research result to the farmer. But are they doing it?
Okay.
That is the question.
Thank you. So the extension linkage with the ARCN is the point here. And can you please make it brief? I'm really under pressure on time.
Yeah,
Please.
I just want to make sure I was in that group. From
Yeah.
the perspective of alignment,
Yeah.
we actually suggested that what will happen is that ACRN link up with organizations. Synagogue told us a lot of things, what they are doing in terms of advocacy at that level, where it's not ARCN responsibility or the minister responsibility to push that bill. They could link up with Sahel Capital or any private sector that will use the product of research to help them drive the release of that bill.
Thank you. All right. And I think, can you make it very brief, please?
Thank you so much. I wanted just to make a very short intervention to the benefit of the whole exercise about LCN. Since IFPRI is very heavily involved in LCN process and transformation and the rest, a couple of years ago, I would say, started the whole thing. So the good news first, and then the bad news. The good news is that we have been instrumental in conducting a major study, as I mentioned earlier, regarding the reform of LCN. If you look at the slide over there now, you can see we uploaded the NSSP IFPRI Abuja office working paper, which is in the public domain right now. I think it's good for you to access that, because basically there you can see in detail all the recommendations emanating from that particular exercise conducted by the Capacity Strengthening Director at the Washington, D.C. IFPRI headquarters, Dr. Suresh Babu and others. So this is very important because I was very delighted to see many bullet points in the previous report, in the previous discussion, from the team on RCN, which are quite similar to what you can see in the report.
Thank you.
The report is there. Let me finish. This is very important. The other good news is that we have been very actively engaged with RCN right now in developing the M&E for them, in trying to fill some capacity gaps there in terms of policy communications, training courses, in terms of startup for policy analysis and the rest. This is very relevant. The bad news is that 2 years after the completion of that report, the report I'm talking about was completed in July 2016. It's almost 2 years after. We have no actually progress made at all. It has nothing to do with us, of course. It's in the policy domain right now regarding the bill for the reform of RCN. I think this is a very substantial delay, which of course affects the whole alignment process, because of course I'm happy to hear that everyone wants to see RCN in the driver's seat. If you want to see RCN in the driver's seat, you need to move fast with the implementation of the reforms. And the second bad news is that right now, in the last, I would say, more than a year, I would say, after Professor Abubakar resigned, we have actually the whole a very long transition process in terms of leadership in RCN, which of course does not help at all the whole process.
Exactly.
So I wanted just to share all this with the group here, because we cannot ignore realities.
Okay, thank you. Can you take that microphone and turn it off? And go and stand at the back there. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. Let me just say the following, please. Let's understand each other here. Kwesi's intervention was a very critical intervention. It recognizes, one, that the discussion is about alignment. And two, that alignment cannot work if there are some institutional problems. And three, that some of those institutional problems cannot necessarily be addressed if the voice trying to do it is coming from a meeting that was for something else. And therefore, those like IITA who are in the know and are involved will do this offline, benefiting from the discussion we have had here, without making it sound like we are going to solve the reform in this room. But we are noting it, and action will be taken, and people like George could be invited to work with IITA, suggest, give that document if they don't have it. But let us not try to say that we are making a recommendation here which directly relates to alignment, but a suggestion that alignment could be compromised if these are not done. That is really what we are saying here. Okay? Can we leave it at that? Because anything you add will be helpful, but it will not necessarily change.